right, welcome back. It is 9:30 on this Friday. We are glad you're back with us.
Looks very gray outside today as we take a live look outside from our HD Tower cam. Oh man, it was like chilly this morning.
It was a cooler start, especially compared to the rest of the week. We had the rain overnight.
Yeah, make sure you're logged on right now, WBTV.com/vote, because you get to play along with us. We're going to have a little quiz here in a second.
Yeah, that is because all this week on WBTV this morning, we've been helping you stay always alert for your kids around the water this season. It's something we don't talk about enough, but it's a very real thing. And so this morning, we wanted to see if you've been paying attention, watching the stories. If you haven't, they're right now, WBTV.com/alwaysalert. But don't go yet. I don't want you to cheat. I want to see if you've been watching right now. We're going to do a little quiz, and I want you to follow along this morning.
Yeah, so give you time to get logged on to WBTV.com/vote. I will say I've been watching all of these stories throughout the week on WBTV News this morning. They've really been great. Even as a non-parent, Mary, I think the information that you're sharing with folks has been really, really important. So if you missed any of them, you have to go to the website and watch them. It really... You'll be around kids this summer, even if they're not yours, and this will help you.
That's the biggest thing, Kristen. I mean, you know that even as non-parents or parents, I think, or grandparents or caregivers, or whatever, if you're around kiddos, it's important information to know. I think we're all got to be responsible for them, right? So, are you ready?
Well, I don't know.
I think you got this. You've been paying close attention here.
I've been trying.
So, one of the things that we've been talking about all week is that drowning is the leading cause of death in kids in a certain age group. And so we've put those age groups here on your screen. Is it 1 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19?
Well, I don't think it's 15 to 19. I'd be surprised if it's 10 to 14. I'm going to go with 1 to 4 because you've really been focusing in on that age group. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was the next one up either.
All right. Give the folks a second here. It looks like a lot of folks are weighing in there with you. And the answer is... You're right, Kristen, 1 to 4. It's interesting you said what you did, though, because 15 to 19 is the next age group you really want to focus on. Yeah.
Interesting.
So we're going to talk to an expert here in just a minute. Stay with us. It's such an important conversation, but you'll be surprised to hear that is the next age group you really want to focus on. That 5 to 14 or 5 to 9. 5 to 14 really is second leading cause of death is drowning in accidental death, so it's still a huge thing, right? All right, so another question we want to ask you right now. Aquatics experts believe the biggest danger for kids around the water is what? Is it a lack of swimming skills? Is it a lack of parental supervision? Is it a lack of flotation devices or a lack of lifeguards? We know those are hard to find.
Lifeguards are hard to find. I don't think it's lack of flotation devices. I'm going to go with lack of parental supervision.
All right, folks are weighing in right now as well. That one's leading. We got a few folks saying lack of swimming skills. Answer is lack of parental supervision. Now, of course, it'd be a perfect world if everybody knew how to swim. The reality is that's just not the case. And so it is our job to be supervising kiddos. And there are layers of this. So we're going to get into that in a minute as well. Final question here. I think you're going to nail this one.
I don't know.
I know. A swimsuit color test from Alive Solutions showed the best color when swimsuits are submerged in water. Are those light blue and white, red and black, neon yellow and orange, or dark blue and red?
I loved all of the stories this week. I thought this one was fascinating because you don't think too much about the suit, the color of the suit that you're getting for your kiddos. And this is an easy way to do it. I'm going to say neon yellow and orange.
All right, and we've got most folks weighing in on there. So I feel like people have been following along here.
I think they've been paying attention. Which
is awesome because that means hopefully our kiddos will be even safer around the water this year. You are correct, Kristen. The answer is neon yellow and orange. And, you know, it's hard to find those colors sometimes, though. You can find them, but there's still some work to be done, I think, when it comes to actually being able to get more brighter suits out there. Again, though, I walked over here to the lounge because that's just a layer of what we're talking about. It's one thing you can do, but there's so many things you can do. Janice Williams is with Safe Kids Charlotte-Mecklenburg and does a host of other things, works for Atrium Health, a million things. This is your passion.
This is.
Because you want to keep kids safe.
23 years.
Oh my gosh, Janice, thank you for the work you're doing. I've had some conversations with Janice about this. We've talked about so many things, but Janice, one of the things I wanted to jump in on was this thing, the age numbers we were just talking about. 1 to 4 being that group that sees, you know, the most drownings. Our local numbers really sadly, unfortunately, match with those national statistics, correct?
Yes, so a lot of people think of the fatal numbers, which can be found easily, but working for Atrium are non-fatal numbers, so the near drownings come in at 70% ages 1 to 4. And then, as you said to Miranda, the teenagers follow second, and that is because that swim lesson thing is a misconception. Most of the people that drown do know how to swim. It is a layer, but it is not the most protective layer.
Right, and that is especially as we get to those older groups, because you think about kids being around the water, their friends are in the water, and there's this like, I'm gonna jump in the water too, and this desire to be around, but are we really equipped in that moment to be, you know, in lakes and in open water the way that a lot of times those teens end up in the water, right? One of the things I want to also talk about is that when you look at these local numbers, boys by far outweigh girls when it comes to drowning or near drowning victims.
Yeah, so the interesting thing there is, as parents of boys will know, right, they do tend to be more rambunctious, more adventure seeking as a whole. But actually, I think parents would be surprised to know that in the research, parents are less protective of boys than girls.
Because we just will say boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that was mentioned earlier is these aren't accidents, right? These are preventable. So a lot of times the stories of crashes and drownings and all of the different injuries, we call them accidents, but if we start to call them preventable incidents, parents can better understand there are things they can do.
Yes, and we have to keep our eye. That goes back to the parental supervision. Janice, let's talk about how quick this happens. It's quick, it's silent, but just how fast? I mean, how long can a child hold its breath for?
30 seconds.
That's it.
And so we talked earlier again about supervision, but we like to tell parents it has to be touch supervision.
Yeah.
So you have to be within touch distance because they can't hold their breath long, and it's silent. A lot of people think if I cook in the house and I'll hear something going on. The other thing is that parents might be surprised to know that 69% of the drownings are not during swim time. So we think, I'm gonna go to the pool, somebody's gonna be a water watcher, but most of it is when they access the pool.
Yeah.
So the barrier there, right, is a 4-sided fence.
A 4-sided fence. Now, we showed you this morning on WBTV this morning, again, the story is posted. If your kid falls in water, if you teach them, you know, some survival skills, there's ways for them to get out, right? But we want to prevent that from even happening. So why the 4-sided fence instead of the traditional? We think of a home, you go out the back door, the pool's right there off the back patio, and then we have the 3-sided fence, right?
Yeah, so the 3-sided fence is actually a county ordinance in Mecklenburg and in most surrounding counties. But it's a public health ordinance because it protects the other people from your pool as the danger to their children. But for your children, their access is going to be from that inside the house. So that 4-sided fence. Also, it has to be a certain height. It has to be self-latching, self-locking gate. And we find that most of it is, even when the parents had all of that, they may not have taken care of the shrubbery, or they may have left a trip hose out, or they may have left toys in the pool. So it's kind of a big scenario to think about.
Yeah.
So certainly if you have a pool, and the other thing to tell parents as we talk about pools is a lot of people think of the fancy in-ground. But we mean if you put up an inflatable pool, this counts.
Yeah.
So I would say also, if there's parents 1 to 4, that maybe if you're really concerned and the supervision can't be there, is that maybe we play with sprinklers for the first 4 years and water that's not quite as dangerous.
Yeah, and you think, I mean, they can still have fun in that, and you don't have to worry about the extra. And when I think about, too, as you said, the toys, that's because kiddos see those things and they just want to reach for them, right? And so then they're falling in and not even, you know, realizing what's going to happen next. Let's also talk about, when we talk about that kids 15 to 18, that highest risk when it comes outside of 1 to 4, something you want people to know is that we can all jump in to help, and knowing CPR and knowing these life-saving measures is something we take for granted too.
Yeah, so 2 of the things that we found in drowning victims that might have caused them to be non-fatal is that the adults around them didn't know how to swim either, so everybody didn't know what to do and they just sat and watched the person drown. But also when they come out of the water, because it's a drowning and there's water, people are not sure, do I turn the person over, get the water out, what do I do?
Right.
So you do start CPR immediately, because what actually happens is the water fills the lungs so the oxygen can't get in. So we want to get oxygen in, which means we need you to start traditional CPR, not hands-only CPR.
And you don't think about that because
And
you're
you
like, the
don't think
water's in there, but you said get the oxygen in. Janice Williams here, Safe Kids, Charlotte Mecklenburg. Thank you for helping us wrap up our Always Alert series. We're grateful for you and your efforts to keep kiddos safe.
Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. All right.